Whether you're new to wrapping guides or you've wrapped a lot of graphite rods, you'll find bamboo rods are going to present some unique challenges. So today I want to talk you through the method and the techniques we use to wrap guides here at Oyster Bamboo. Here you can see the setup in the stand. We've got our little holders here as far away from the guide as possible so we're not knocking anything off. You can just move those in those peg holes wherever you need them. We've got our threads set up on one side or the other, it doesn't matter which, and then it's routed through this thread tensioner by these little posts right out to our slider, which we will position directly below the guide we want to wrap. Always make sure this little strap is on good and tight. If it's not under tension, every time you take your hands off to grab a tool or make an adjustment, it could back off a little bit, throw slack into your wrap. And now we're ready to start our wrap. You're going to take the guide, we'll put it not just straight up, but tilted slightly away. And the thread is going to come directly up from below. We're going to go over the top. In this case, we're wrapping left to right. So the tag end is going to come up on the right side. We need to get it right up against the hoop there. So we're going to put a finger below without grabbing it, pull some slack as I release some slack with my upper hand, and just seesaw it back and forth into place right up against the hoop. All right. Now we need to get the long end to wrap over top of the short end. This hand has to be down out of the way, and we'll give a slight lift and lay it across at that apex. And as we release, I pulled the slack out with my upper hand. Now this crossover at the apex is where I'll put my finger and then gently lay this off to the right and drop it on the near side. I'm going to grab the rod with my right hand and start to rotate it while I let it roll down my left finger. As I do this, I'm going to move the rod left and right as much as I need to make sure it's falling directly to the right of the first wrap. When that guide hits my finger, I've got to swap hands and roll it down that finger. Notice I'm not immediately cranking my own wrist. I just hold my hand where it is and let it roll like a tire down the length of my finger until we get that third wrap in place. Those first few tie-in wraps are the hardest part of this whole process. Now we've got the thing locked in. All we're trying to do at this point is establish a straight line that will allow us to just spin the rod and pretty wraps just magically appear side by side. So this is how we're going to do that. We're going to go slowly, and we're watching the angle of the thread here. All right, we're looking for an angle that's slightly less than 90 degrees. All right, if it's more than 90 degrees like this, you're going to get an open spiral. If that happens, you just back off. I'll reach over here, grab the thread spool, turn it backwards, go back to where things looked good again. We're not going to try to make wrap number 4 match those first 3. Those first 3 are for sure going to be crooked. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go slowly, and we're looking for an angle that will allow us to just hold steady, and they'll pack in tight. And there we go. It's always slightly less than 90 degrees. As soon as I see I've got that, I'm going to take advantage of it by bracing my hands and spinning the rod quickly. All right. And just that quick, we're right up to our tape, so we can get rid of it. We also can secure and chop this first tag end. What we'll do is we'll pull it to the right, and we can see which apex it wants to go against, which is the one right here. Pull out all the slack, secure it, and disguise it along that apex ridge. Hold it straight up, and with a razor blade, cut away from your good thread, like that. All right, it doesn't have to be flush on this one because there's more wraps to come. Now we'll start rotating the rod again. This is also a great time to square up your guide. If your guide's not sitting right in the middle of the flat, we can fix that up. All right, and then look for that magic angle. That's the key to this whole process, is finding that angle slightly less than 90 degrees. And as soon as you see you found it, you take advantage by quickly spinning. All right, somewhere near the point of the guide foot, we need to get in our finishing loop because we need about 1/8 of an inch of thread over top of that as well. We're just going to take a piece of thread that's 4 or 5 inches long. Don't make it too long or you'll have a big old mess. We're going to slip that under the standing portion of the thread into the middle of the flat opposite of the guide. And then just forget about it. All right, go back to spinning. Find that angle. As soon as you see you've got it, you're going to spin it. Once you get about 1/8 of an inch of thread over top of the hoop there, we are ready to chop it. We're going to organize this first, make sure we can get to everything before we get in our own way. With our right finger, we're going to press not directly on it, but one flat back. Chop it long down near the slider, so we've got a little bit of slack to work with. We'll poke that through, and you can grab it if you want. Don't poke it all the way through. We need that slack to make it easier to get under. And then we're going to pull directly down the belly of the flat. If you pull across an apex, it may come up tight and break. You want to keep it right where the slack is, which is the center of the flat. Keep that finger on until we pull the slack out, which should still be there. Pull it up tight. Always secure your ends against an apex. That's one way it varies from graphite rod. You don't have apexes to worry about there. And then we're ready to chop it. We're going to hold it straight up. Because of the bevel on the razor blade, we actually need to angle slightly towards the wrap, as scary as that is, but that'll allow us to cut it pretty darn flush. At this point, your wrap should look pretty good. And if it looks any better than that, you probably wasted time on it because our burnishing tool here will help fix up that last little bit. All right. You can see our crooked tie-in wrap on the left side. We can just gently brush that out. Square up those first wraps. And then at the end here, we can square up the final edge. Where we pulled it under, it tends to dent in a little bit, so we can gently push that back out to the right. There we go. And that'll have the added benefit of covering up that last little nub. If you've got any thin areas, you can see a little bit of daylight there, we can just rob from the thick areas and quickly close that up. If you see any silver on the guide foot, same deal. Close that up. All right, and when you get the whole thing looking pretty good, it just gets these little swirls, flat by flat, that'll help evenly distribute that thread and make it look that much nicer. And there we go. If you practice these techniques, eventually your wraps will look just as good as the rest of your rod. I hope this helps.